I'm really excited, guys. I get to show you about using this little device right here. This device is called a potentiometer. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to show you what's happening inside of this little guy right here, how to hook it up to your circuit, and what we could do with those kinds of things. So it has a very strange name. I'll write it right here on the background. It is called a potentiometer. If you've ever turned up the volume on like a car stereo or a stereo at your house, you've used a potentiometer before. All right. Some people call these things a variable resistor, and if you remember from robotics when we were using variables, a variable just means that it can change. So this is a resistor that can change its resistance values. So let's just kind of take a quick tour of this thing. Okay, so let's see, will you focus? All right, it's got this little kind of spinny knob on the top. Most of the ones that we have in class are this blue kind. We also have a couple black kind. And so you can change the resistance for some stuff just by spinning this knob, and we'll explore that in a little more detail in a second here. On the bottom, you'll notice that there are three legs, or three little metal poles sticking out of there, and we'll explore what those are for as well. Okay, these things are a whole lot of fun, and you can do a whole lot of really neat things with them. Let me just kind of show you what's going on inside of the potentiometer so I can explain how they work. So if I were to open up this potentiometer, inside I would find kind of like a horseshoe looking shape. Okay, and I'm going to draw that in green here. Okay, and that horseshoe looking thing would be made out of a resistor material. So all that green stuff is really a resistor. And that resistor would be hooked up to two of those metal legs that we saw on there. If you look on the bottom here, the two legs that I'm talking about right now are the ones on the sides, not the one in the middle. We'll talk about the one in the middle in a second here. But these two on the sides are these two legs right here in my picture. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let's say like I have positive 5 volts. Okay, and I'm going to put that in one leg. In order to get that current to flow through the resistor, do you know what I would hook the other leg up to? Yeah, I would hook it up to the negative. So I would have current through this resistor now. And it's not a short circuit because, right, anytime we put current through a resistance, it stops a short circuit from happening. So this would be an okay circuit. It really wouldn't do anything for us, though. We'd just be putting current through a resistor and we would see nothing happening, so nothing kind of special there. Where this thing does get special, though, is inside is a little metal bar called a wiper. All right, and that wiper is hooked up to the knob on the front. Okay, so if I were to remove this lid, under this spinny part, you would see that metal bar, and it's made out of a conductor, and this metal bar kind of has like a little wire going to it, and that wire is attached to the middle leg. So this middle leg right here on my potentiometer is attached to a metal bar called a wiper. So here's what's really neat. Let's say that this middle leg also had a connection to negative. Let's explore what's going to happen. So my current is going to come in on the left side. It's going to travel right up here through the resistor, and then it's going to get to right here at the wiper. And then I gave this current a choice. So choice number one is it continues through the resistor to this negative right here. So I'll write number 1 on here because that's choice 1. And the second choice I gave my current, I'll put my negative here, so this is actually hooked up to a negative. The second choice I'm giving my current is right here, so this is choice 2. Where do you think the current is going to go? Is it going to go all the way through this resistor to negative number 1? Or is it going to go right through this conductor straight to negative number 2? I'll let you think about that for a second. If you said it's going to choose choice 2, you are correct. Remember, current likes the easiest path possible. So to get to negative number 1, it has to go through a very difficult resistor. To get to choice 2, it's going to go straight down through the wiper. So what I could do basically is kind of look at the voltage that's coming down through the wiper into negative number 2. So you could see that it had to travel through this part of the resistor right here. So what comes out of this leg is going to be less than 5 volts. So that wiper position lowered it from 5 volts. We know that. Now let's say that I take this wiper, okay, and I move it over here. Okay, my current still has that same choice, except the wiper is further away. That means the current had more resistor to go through. So now, if the first position when it was there in the middle was less than 5 volts, this is going to be much less than 5 volts. Sorry if you're having a hard time seeing that. I'll scoot my camera up a little bit there. All right, that's going to be much less than 5 volts because there's more resistor for it to go through. Now, it's still not going to go to number 1 because, right, it still has, it's going to get to this wiper and still choose to go there. It would rather go right to negative number 2 than through the rest of this resistor. How can I use this stuff? All right, so let me kind of redraw my picture here. So when I have a potentiometer, I'll draw my resistor material. Remember, we're going to hook one end up to the positive, one end up to the negative so that we get current pulling through it. And then I will draw a wiper, and let's put the wiper kind of over here this time. I'll just draw a wiper like that. And that's hooked up to the middle leg. So I'll draw my legs here. So there's the 2 on the sides. And this is the one in the middle. Let's say that I take the current from this middle leg and I bring it over here. And I put that current, I'm going to draw a squiggly line. That squiggly line is actually the symbol for a resistor. So I'm going to put that current through a resistor there. And then I'm going to put that current into an LED. And that LED is going to take it to the negative. So let's imagine what's going to happen to this LED. So I'm going to put 5 volts of positive current. It's going to go in here. That current is going to travel through the wiper, down here, through my LED to negative. But look how far it had to travel through a resistor. It didn't have very far to travel at all. That means, because I didn't go through a lot of resistor, when the current gets to this LED, it's going to be pretty bright. Now let's go and move the position of the wiper. Let's say I move the wiper all the way over to this side of the resistor, or the potentiometer now. So instead of just having that little bit of resistor to go through, now the current has to go all the way over here. That's a lot of resistor that the current has to go through until it gets to the wiper. So by the time it gets here, that voltage has dropped a lot. So it'll go through the wiper down here. It's still going to go through this way because there's a path to negative over here. It's going to come here, but the thing is, it's not bright anymore because it had to travel through a lot of resistor to get there. Now it's pretty dim. It might still be lit, but now it's much dimmer than it was. So if you've ever used a dimmer switch in a house before, you've used a version of a potentiometer. It's going to force current to go through a resistor, and what comes out of the wiper leg, and it's the wiper leg that we really care about, the voltage is going to change coming out of that wiper leg. So let's see that in action. All right, here's my breadboard. And here is my potentiometer. A lot of times I just kind of mark where the bottom is right here. So on these blue ones, these little lines, little slots on the bottom represent the bottom, I guess. And we are going to look at it like this. So these little lines, the bottom part of the potentiometer, I'm going to make sure that's facing towards me. And I'm going to pay attention to the 3 places that these legs are plugged into. So all 3 of these legs need to be plugged into a different hole in my breadboard. So the leg all the way over here on the left, that's plugged into row 35. The middle leg, the wiper leg, is plugged into 36. And then the right leg is plugged into 37. All right. So just like I said, we're going to hook up one side of the potentiometer to current. So I've got the left side here on 35 and then the right side here on 37. It doesn't matter which one gets positive, which one gets negative. I will give the right side current, and then the left side, I will provide that a path to the negative. The leg that I care the most about is my wiper leg, because that's the leg that the voltage is going to change on, and that wiper leg is the one in the middle. So this white wire will be connected to the wiper leg in the middle there. And I'm just going to take that wire to any other row. So I'll bring it all the way over here to, like, let's say row 50. All right, so if I spin this dial all the way to the right, that means the current goes into my potentiometer, and then you can see that arrow shows you where the wiper is pointing. So that means that the current has almost no resistor to go through. So coming out of this white wire right now is pretty close to 5 volts of current. Whereas I spin it all the way to the left, that now this positive current has a long way to go through a very difficult resistor until it gets over here. Then what's coming out of the wiper on this white wire is almost very, very little voltage. All right. So I'll spin it all the way to the right again, and then when it's all the way to the right, it's going to have pretty close to 5 volts, which is still dangerous for an LED. So after the wiper, I'm going to use a resistor to kind of reduce the voltage to a safe level, just in case. There's a possibility that I'll have it just in case. So you can see one end of the resistor is plugged into 50 and the other end is into 55. That means row 55 has positive current. The voltage of that current is going to be changing depending on how I spin that thing around. So that means the long leg of my LED needs to be attached to 55, and my short leg needs to be attached just somewhere else. All right, and I'll go ahead then, and my LED still isn't turning on because I'm giving current to the LED, but it's not moving because it does not have a connection to the negative or to the ground. So what I'll do is I'll take, and that looks like, what is that, 56, 57, 58, row 58 needs to be attached to the negative, and I'll bet you the second I touch that negative, that LED will turn on. There we go, and kind of like I predicted, that's a really bright LED, because when the wiper is all the way on the right, there's almost no resistance for that current to go through. You can see that's really bright there on the screen. If I start to spin this, and I hope we could see it on the camera, yeah, we can. So I start to spin that to the left, that LED gets dimmer, and it'll even turn off. There's not enough voltage at a certain point for it to stay on. Okay, so the big thing you need to remember about this potentiometer, you have two outside legs, right? That's this yellow wire and this red wire. One of the outside legs needs to be hooked up to negative. One of the outside legs needs to be hooked up to positive. That current coming off the middle one, the wiper leg, the voltage of that current is going to be changing depending on how I spin this knob. So that middle one is what we want to send to a device, like an LED. And then later on, we're going to send that to an Arduino to do some fun stuff too. So it's that middle one that we care about. So all my devices, for the most part, should get their current from the wiper. And if you remember whenever I use a potentiometer, it's the wiper that I really care the most about, where that middle leg, you're going to be doing pretty good. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope that helped. And this was a whole lot of fun to use. I think it's so satisfying to watch those LEDs go dim and bright based on how I turn it. All right. Have fun, guys.